what's the best way to talk about why they are getting assessed?
Yes. So I do this in clinic, and I'll often ask kids, do you know why you're here to see me?
Yeah.
And they'll usually say no. And I say what my job is. I say I'm a doctor. I'm not a doctor that looks after coughs and colds, or people that have hurt their arm. I'm a doctor that gets to meet kids who might be struggling with how they're feeling, how they're learning, how they're sleeping. The beautiful thing is my job is to make things better for you. I'm not here for your mum because mum's obviously sitting there. I'm not here for your teachers. I'm here for you. And my job, and I get paid for it, which is pretty awesome, is I get to make things better because things should be better for you from what I hear, because I've heard all this awesome stuff about you and I've heard that some things can be a bit tough and we're going to change that. And so that's what we talk about. If it's changing schools or something, we talk about how you deserve to be in an environment that works for you, celebrates you, harnesses you, and is stronger because of you. Let's see if we can find that place or make this one really unlock your potential and get to really, take advantage of all the awesome stuff about you. And I genuinely mean that. So I think that's how we do it. We don't do it from a something's wrong, we're sick of you doing this, life's too hard because of you. We've got to hear that when people say it because that's their experience, but then we shift it towards actually we're just trying to help this kid, because none of these kids that I've met wake up in the morning and they're like, I just want to be difficult. They're just stuck in patterns of behaviour that, meeting a need. As I said previously on an episode, these are all adaptive in their mind, the ways that they're dealing with this.
Okay.
Same as the 4-year-old that's violent.
Yep.
There's a reason.
Cool. Billy, we're going to rip into the longs. I think we have 5 longs this week.
Yep.
Top of my head. Billy, dear Nick and Billy, if you read no further than this, I just really want to say I need that episode about should I get my kid assessed. Yes, we had a lot of people. So where this came from is a lot of people in the comments of our Instagram, a lot, dominated one of the posts on neurodivergent kids about should I get my kid assessed? Just set that up.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah,
cool.
Definitely.
I have 3 children I strongly suspect are neurodivergent, but none of them have formal diagnosis. The biggest barrier is cost. I simply can't afford private assessments and I feel lost in the public system. I want my kids to feel seen, validated and connected to a community that embraces who they are. I know a diagnosis could offer them identity and access, but would it offer practical supports we can't get already? We currently scrape by to afford therapy where we can, and I know we are lucky to be able to do that. Resources like your podcast help me so much in parenting in a way that validates their experience and advocates for them. It's one of the few free lifelines I can turn to, and I just want to say, please keep doing what you're doing. It's making a real difference. When I think of diagnosis, I also worry about stigma. As you know, labels are often deficit-based, and I've seen how they shape others' perceptions. If I had the money, I'd get the diagnosis and use it only when it serves my kids. But without the option, I wonder, can we be okay without it? Here's where we're at. My 9-year-old sees a psychologist who suspects autism, but a formal assessment is $3,000. My middle child receives speech therapy and struggles with literacy. We're on a long wait list for a free developmental paediatrician at our local Aboriginal medical service. My youngest is an almost 3 and likely on the spectrum, though she presents differently. I worry she'll be missed by screeners because she's verbal and a girl. I want to do right by my kids. I grew up as a likely undiagnosed ASD household, and I've seen the cost of misidentification. I still ask myself, what does a diagnosis really give us? Is it just a piece of paper that finally legitimizes the need for support we already know exists, or can we continue to identify our kids' needs and fight for those needs to be met without it? Every time I think about saving for assessments, something breaks: the car, the fridge, the tyres, the dream slips further away. I'd love to hear your reflection on this. I imagine I'm not the only parent sitting in this uncertainty with deep gratitude.
Yeah, so, that question of what will a diagnosis, and diagnoses are unfortunately The DSM-5 that all of us are using is the diagnostic manual, and it's very deficit-based, like has deficits in social and communication, has deficits in repetitive restrictive behaviours, impacts their life in more than one area. It's all this deficit-based stuff. And even Devon Price talks about this balance of like knowing that kids that are identified and diagnosed earlier often have better outcomes because early intervention, the earlier and, the more evidence-based it is, the more likely that child is to functionally improve. But there is also a greater vulnerability in a diagnosis of experiencing stigma. There's a couple of things to this question. Most of, and once again, using the nationally agreed guidelines, most of the kids with a condition such as autism do not require to go through, expensive multidisciplinary assessments. What the guidelines show us is that most of them, where there is confidence in the accuracy of the diagnosis after a broader developmental assessment, needs assessment has gone, I always speak to every therapist and every educator that's involved in these kids before I make that diagnosis. They know these kids better than I do. They might not be able to say whether the kid has autism or not, but they can really help me know how this kid is going and what their needs are. But then there is a small group of kids where there is a greater level of complexity where some of us will need to use those multidisciplinary assessments, but unfortunately they're often very expensive. We're trying to improve access in the public system to this because it is really important. But what I would say is that that's the kind of diagnostic label bit. They unfortunately were advocating very strongly in Australia. I know there's people doing this overseas about moving away from a diagnosis-based system that you get support to a needs-based system. It doesn't matter if your kid has a diagnosis or not, they need the support. The support gets to them because, once again, it benefits our whole society. This pays off. That's why these are like insurance schemes. That's why they call them that, because they say, little Billy, if we support him now, will be more productive in our community. He'll be more engaged. He'll need less support in the long run. Like they're not. It's not a kindness thing. It's a spend $1 now, save $100
later.
Yeah. So they're not being kind. It's an investment. The other thing I would say, and it's one of the many beautiful things about the neurodivergence community, is that it is so welcoming. And what you'll find is if you look out for those communities, there's many different organisations nationally that are phenomenal. There's many local community-based stuff. They won't need you to have a bit of paper that says that, and that ability to have an experience that's different to mainstream stigma often occurs in those communities because they're just so welcoming. And we know the evidence shows us that those kids function better when they're around other neurodivergent kids. Do you know what I mean? That's the telephone game research that says these kids function better in those moments. So what I would say is connect to that community today. Reach out, be a part of it. My experience of them is they've done a phenomenal job of advocacy. They've pushed back against all the stuff like stop hand flapping and all the therapy that went into all those things. They have a really powerful lived experience voice that is equally important, if not more so, to the clinical bit, and reach out to them. But also look in your community for pathways for people that do have experience in this where it isn't thousands and thousands of dollars. Because we've just seen a huge business model, especially in the adult space, push up now, where you would probably know mates. I know mates where they go and pay thousands of dollars now. They have one appointment. They get diagnosed with ADHD. And unfortunately, then they'll get a letter telling someone else to start the medication and no proper assessment's been done, excluding things such as possible anxiety, and that medication makes it worse. And both those conditions have difficulty concentrating in them. So if you're just looking for ADHD, that's all you'll find.
This podcast is brought to you by Guiding Growing Minds, a social enterprise that aims to give all children the best opportunity to reach their potential and succeed in living rich and meaningful lives.